Hello, everybody, and welcome back to 50 by 50, Whatever Happened to the Class of 1976. I am Michael Conniff. I'll be your host. I'm a member of that class. Happy to say I am. Happy to be a member. Today, I'm very excited to be joined by our classmate, Rod Clark. Great to see you, Rod, and thank you for doing this. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me, Michael. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. It's this is actually the first post reunion podcast. So 50 by 50, you're probably a sports fan. ESPN had 30 by 30. So I was trying to do 50 by 50. I got to 30. So I still have another 20 at least to do. I may keep doing it. We'll just see. We'll play it by ear. But you are somebody I definitely wanted to talk to. In part because you're a Thurgood scholar, biographer, and expert, and Thurgood Marshall, and I did some writing that included Thurgood Marshall as well, and we sort of overlapped slightly through Tom Wright, but I don't think we ever got to talk. Actually, I think Tom did the talking for both of us. But what I love to everyone to know is you're a professor, just retired, a professor of law at Drake University in Des Moines, Iowa, where you're zooming from now. First, I got to ask you, since this is post reunion, what did you make of the reunion? Was it what you expected, or what was different than you expected?
You know what? It was not at all what I expected, and I think it was not what Harvard expected in a lot of ways. I mean, I think there were many more people there than Harvard expected. The dinner on Thursday night before the show at Sanders Theater really was kind of a cattle drive.
Yeah.
Were you there? Did you?
Oh, yeah.
Were you? Oh, okay. So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But I tell you, there was just such a good feeling. I thought it was a very upbeat, just a hopeful, optimistic time. The production that night in Sanders was very emotional at times, and very super evocative of, I think, a lot of things that our generation feels and stands for. And overall, I just had a really just good feeling about it. I'm so glad I went.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to hear that. I had similar feelings, and I do want to give a shout out, in particular, to Steve Goodman, who sang "Hallelujah." You know, the Leonard song.
Yes, that was a really pivotal moment, along with "Battle Cry of Freedom," the old Union Army.
Yeah, and lots of great performances. I think that there was something about it, that performance. I don't know him. Do you know Steve? I don't know a thing about him. I understand he is an opera singer, but I'd love to get him on this podcast. But he, there's something about that song when done well that is so powerful because it builds and builds and builds. So no, I think people were optimistic about the future. Were they optimistic in terms of being happy about their lives? Where did that optimism come from? Did you have any feel for that?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I think one of the things that surprised Harvard was how many people were there.
Yeah.
From our class, and I think our class was 1,500.
Yeah, I think 15 or 16. Yeah, right around there.
I would bet around 900 showed up.
Really? Wow. I would have put it maybe a couple hundred lower, but that's still a lot.
That's a lot.
And, when you consider, 160 classmates are deceased, I think.
Well, yeah. I mean, we're at that age.
That's a lot.
Yeah, you expect the ranks to thin. So, and also health issues or family responsibilities or whatever, So I think just the fact that there were so many of us there represents, a kind of a lot of social change, that people our age are still that active and involved, and everybody looked great. I thought. I mean, I saw I hadn't seen in 50 years. And once I kind of got used to the facial changes and the hair,
Recalibrated.
Yeah. Once I recalibrated,
Yeah.
everybody looked good. I mean,
Well, I don't know if I'd say everybody. I would say either they look pretty good or they look pretty bad. The ones who are pretty bad, you're just hoping they hold on and aren't suffering, of course. But no, it was interesting. Why did you come back?
Oh, I came back. My primary reason was to see my college roommates.
And I know that's Robert Kraft, and who are the others?
Robert Kraft, Horace Dawson.
Who I met there. Yep.
David Hackney, who is a professor of medicine at Harvard Medical School.
So this is a pretty distinguished group. I learned, correct me if I'm wrong, but I met Horace, and Horace was CEO of Red Lobster, right?
Yeah, he was CEO of Darden, the restaurant group, and I guess then they broke up, and he went with Olive Garden.
With Olive Garden, okay.
CEO of Olive Garden, I believe.
Anyway, a very, very successful group. What was, I want to be very transparent here. You are the first African American classmate I've had on the show. I've tried to get a few others, but I think I'm going to be totally honest with you. It's a reflection of me not knowing many black students at Harvard. When I was there, I didn't realize this. I didn't think about this until recently, until, I started doing this. I'm going like, actually, I knew Dan Jiggets a little, but really I didn't have a lot of friends that I could point to. And it made me very interested in kind of what your experience was. We're going to get to your career and your, I've read, I haven't finished the Thurgood Marshall book, but I've my ultimate tribute, Rod, is that I've downloaded all your books. So that means I'm committed to reading all your books. And I know being a writer is important to you, but if you don't mind, I wanted to sort of start with you arriving at Harvard as a freshman. Did you feel like a fish out of water because you were black, or was it a non-factor?
I hadn't really thought about it. I mean, I grew up in an integrated neighborhood in Washington, D.C., born and raised in D.C., near Catholic University. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with Washington. That was before the metro. These days in Washington, you'd think about the, which stop would that be? It would be between Brookland, the Red Line. My neighborhood would be between Brookland and Tacoma Park in Northeast Washington. And the other landmarks there are like Catholic University. And
where did you go to high school?
Actually, I went to high school. I had a unique experience. I was a page in the U.S. Supreme Court.
Oh, no kidding.
Which is where I met Justice Marshall and Justice Brennan. And before that, I had gone to public school in the District of Columbia in Northeast D.C. and a couple of years at a private school in downtown Washington called Woodward School for Boys, or Woodward Prep. Then I guess I went to Capitol Page School in 10th and 11th grade.
It was an actual school.
Yeah, there is, or used to be. It doesn't exist anymore. But there was a Page School on the top floor of the Library of Congress. The Library of Congress is across the street from the Supreme Court and the Capitol. And that Capitol Page School was a D.C. public school. And
wow, that is unique. And what was so being a page means you're a messenger. You're at the beck and call of the people you're working for. So yes. What did you do as a page at eighth? Did you say eighth and ninth grade, or ninth and 10th grade?
10th and 11th grade.
10th and 11th. So you're a young high school kid, and you're running around the Supreme Court. So what did you do? What did you learn?
we do things that people email now.
You were human email.
Yeah, it was a human email, before,
Yeah.
take this note to so and so. Or the justices sitting at the bench would say, we'd sit behind them on the bench. I don't know whether you've been in the Supreme Court building, but
I've been to I saw an argument once. Yeah.
yeah. So there are 9 justices, and in those days the bench was straight, so they sat behind the bench, and we sat on 4 chairs behind them.
Right behind them.
Right behind them. And whenever they wanted a message sent or a book retrieved, they'd hand us a note. Get me 179 US 334.
Oh, no kidding. So you were
page 334. Yeah.
You were on call. They were giving you stuff to go get.
Yeah.
So you could refer to it. So this is obviously pre-digital. So as a young high school kid, at the Page School, did you even then know you were going to go into the law? Is that why you did?
I knew that because that's what my father told me I was going to do.
Was he a lawyer?
He was not a lawyer. And
what did he do?
He was a black man who grew up in Oklahoma. He was born in 1911 and grew up in Muskogee, Oklahoma, during really a time of kind of virulent racial discrimination and forced segregation. And he really very much admired Thurgood Marshall. I guess he had seen or met Thurgood Marshall on some trip, I guess, that Marshall had taken through Oklahoma to represent clients there in one of his cases. But at any rate, he just thought Thurgood Marshall was the greatest human being ever born and wanted me to grow up and be like him.
And you sat right over his shoulder. That's really amazing. Did your dad talk about what he went through to you? Did he tell you what it was like?
Yeah, he talked a lot about what he had been through. He served in the Navy during World War II at a time when the armed forces were still racially segregated. He talked about integrating, we were one of the first black families to move into the neighborhood we lived in, Michigan Park, in Northeast DC. And there had been some trouble there, some vandalism and acts of racial violence.
Did you experience stuff like that personally?
Well, yeah, again, I don't know how familiar the audience is with Washington, D.C., but Eastern Avenue in Northeast Washington is the border between Washington and Maryland. And just across Eastern Avenue, which was a few blocks from my house, is Prince George's County. And Prince George's County was very, very, very racist for a long time. I remember we used to drive across Eastern Avenue a little bit into Prince George's, Queens Chapel Road, and there was a grocery store there, Giant Foods, where we used to shop. Across the street on Queens Chapel Road, I remember the huge billboard with a picture of George Wallace. This is Wallace country. And it really was,
And for those who don't remember, he was the governor of Alabama who said segregation now, segregation forever.
Tomorrow. Segregation today, segregation tomorrow, and segregation forever.
Forever,
and
yeah.
He's president in 1968.
And might have made some real trouble had he not been shot in an assassination, a failed assassination attempt that left him in a wheelchair. But when I want to go back to just sitting over Thurgood Marshall's shoulder. So you're watching him interrogate, the attorneys in front of the court. What do you remember about him? First, well, both as a jurist, as a Supreme Court justice, but also as a person.
As a jurist, what he did was remarkable. I mean, I'm obviously prejudiced in in his favor. I mean, I love the guy and admired him. Brown v. Board of Education is arguably the most consequential Supreme Court decision ruling of the 20th century.
Yeah.
It ended what the segregationists had called our great national policy of racial segregation and apartheid. It moved the United States as leader of the free world from being on the road to becoming an apartheid society to being the diverse society that we know now. It was all the more impressive an achievement because who would believe that the same Supreme Court that had okayed racial segregation in 1896 would reverse itself completely on the question. So it was an act of faith, an act of belief in the U.S. Constitution and in the ultimate goodness of the American people and the American society. And he was smart enough to bring it off. He won a chain of cases to create a line of precedents.
As an attorney,
like a lawyer,
as an attorney before he became Supreme Court Justice, he brought Brown v. Board of Education, right? And then he subsequently became a Supreme Court Justice.
Yeah, he didn't become a Supreme Court. Brown was 1954. He didn't become a Supreme Court Justice till, I think, 1965 or 66.
Now, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit because
Sure.
I'm sure our classmates are very interested in your thoughts on this. So we're now just a few weeks or a few months after much of the civil rights legislation that I'm sure he championed has been gutted, particularly the Voting Rights Act. And I'm just curious, as a scholar of him, how you feel about that, but also how he would feel about that.
Well,
would you feel like his work is being undone, essentially?
Yeah, I'm sure he would be mad about it. He would say, that voting rights was the crown jewel of the civil rights movement. He would say that the reason he brought Brown, the reason he pursued a litigation strategy was because blacks weren't allowed to vote. And so he couldn't pursue a remedy through the political process. We couldn't change, just by winning enough votes to overturn segregation. So he would say, hey, if you want the system to work, you have to let people participate in it. And if they can't participate, then why would they buy in? Why would they believe in it?
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, he agreed that there would one day be an end to affirmative action and race-based policies. And he thought or had agreed to those policies coming to an end around about now.
Really?
The Bakke decision in 1978, he kind of agreed to an end to remedial matters in 50 years' time. I mean, the other thing you have to kind of remember about him is, and there's this great, he's on the cover of Time magazine after Brown, and he's referred to as the Negro leader. And before the emergence of Martin Luther King, he really was considered like almost the president of a foreign country, American black people. And so on into the 70s, he was talked to in that way. I mean, behind closed doors, they would say, well, Justice Marshall, Thurgood, what do you want us to do here? How should we do this? We're not going to be able to maintain racial preferences forever. And I think he said, well, okay, I think another 100 years should solve the problem. And they ended up agreeing, they split the difference, ended up agreeing to 50 years, which is about now.
So Rod, as a law professor, same question for you that I sort of posed through you to Thurgood Marshall. How do you feel about what's come down regarding the civil rights legislation and the gutting of it?
Well, I basically what the Supreme Court has said is that we want our national policy to be color blindness. We're not going to take color into consideration in any governmental policy or anything we do. And I'm not sure whether the country is in fact ready for that. Now, what I mean is this. Let's talk about Louisiana for a second. That was the focus of the voting rights decision. Right now, there are black elected representatives from Louisiana in the state legislature. I'm not sure in Congress, about the U.S. Congress. But Louisiana is 35% black. And if we wake up in a couple of years and there are no black representatives in Louisiana's state legislature or congressional delegation, then something's wrong with that. On the other hand, we don't want to say, well, Louisiana's 35% black and therefore 35% of their elected representatives should be black. I mean, I don't think we want to force some kind of proportionality rule on everyone.
Right, and just one other question on this: I'm almost loath to bring up gerrymandering, but gerrymandering seems to have a racial context in the year of our Lord 2026. To what degree, when you look at that, the gerrymandering decision or the Supreme Court's willingness to allow it, can you sort of explain that to a fifth grader? Like, why would they do that?
Well,
why would they do that?
The racial. Well, first of all, let's talk about gerrymandering. And basically, the Supreme Court has upheld political gerrymandering. That's this idea that the party in power can redistrict a state to help cut up the districts in a way that's favorable to the party in power. So if I'm, a red state, take Iowa, for example. Iowa's a red state. We don't have any Democratic representatives at the national level. So there might be a temptation to maintain that control by redrawing the districts in a way that favors Republican candidates. You just look and see where Republicans live and draw the district in a way that lumps them together so that they form a majority. And political gerrymandering has been upheld by the Supreme Court. What's been outlawed by the Supreme Court is using race as the basis for how the lines get redrawn. But, because black people tend to vote Democratic, when you go to gerrymander politically, you end up kind of cutting them out or pushing the Democrats all into a smaller place. Well, you happen to kind of pick up a disproportionate number of black people when you do that to keep them from adding to the Democrats' vote. Yeah. I mean, you get it? Is that?
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And, I wanted to also.
One thing we do in Iowa, we have an independent commission that decides how the districts will be drawn up.
Imagine that. What a good idea.
Yeah. So that would be one way to solve the problem.
Right.
But the Constitution leaves it to the states to determine how they will conduct their elections.
Yeah, this is all a problem for another day, for sure.
But I mean, there is a solution to it. I think, get rid of political gerrymandering. I mean, what you want to do is just make sure that every district has the same number of people.
Right. Wouldn't that be interesting? Well, listen, I wanted to also, to take you back to Harvard again now, and
Sure.
also ask in terms of what it was like. Did you feel? I don't even know quite how to phrase this, but did you feel like you had a a typical Harvard experience or a typical Harvard experience for an African American? Is there a difference?
Well, I'll tell you, yeah, back to the question you asked me before we kind of started talking about the Supreme Court. That first day,
Yeah.
my mom and dad drove me up to Harvard from D.C., and we drive into Harvard Square, and my father is about to drop me off, and he said, now there are a couple of things I want to tell you.
Great.
The first is, you've got a real advantage here.
Mm.
He said, your dad never finished college.
Yeah.
You are about to enter Harvard. You've already surpassed me.
Mm-hmm.
And you have nothing to prove. To me, you're going to be with people who have a lot to prove to their dads, who are presidents of banks, CEOs of major corporations. They're going to have a lot to live up to and a lot that's expected of them. You don't have to worry about that. So I want you to go and have a good time, work hard, and stay normal. Just, when you come home, just be able to explain to me the difference between Freud and C.J. Jung, or what is it that makes Beethoven and Mozart? What's the difference between, just be able to explain, get a good liberal arts education. That was the advice he gave me. So I went in really not having to worry about disappointing my dad or my mom or dad. And really, I didn't feel under a whole lot of pressure.
He took the pressure off you.
He took the pressure off me.
He said, go be yourself, and that's good enough.
Yeah, and have fun.
Yeah, let's not forget that. Did you have fun?
I had a lot of fun. I had wonderful roommates. The missing roommate was Harley Payton, who actually, Harley and I lived together on the top floor of Matthews Hall. And I don't know whether you know Harley or you've seen his movies. He did Less Than Zero.
No, I haven't seen his movies.
Friends with, oh gosh, I can't. Anyway, you can Google him. He's done so many things. But anyway, yeah, he's a terrific screenwriter. His last TV program, actually, I could look this up. He Reginald the Vampire on Canadian television, which also is here in the U.S. But Harley was just this wonderful guy, and I think we used to talk about diversity at Harvard, and I always wondered whether it was a diversity policy that brought us together. I think they looked at me and said, "Oh, Washington D.C.," and they looked at him and said, "Oh, Washington State. This will be an interesting mix."
That's like me with Tim Benstead, a box lacrosse player from Canada. I was a lacrosse player. As far as I can tell, that's the only thing we had. We got along fine, but that's the only thing we had in common.
Yeah, the only thing we had.
I think they're just like, they didn't have a lot of data points on us, right?
Right. And, and he was always very funny because we ended up being a group of 5. And Robert is Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
Horace and Dave are black. I'm black. And Harley's white. So Harley used to say, "What do you mean? I always thought I was the diversity in the group."
That's a great story. That's quite a crew you got there. Quite a distinguished group. Different walks of life. Yeah. Did you feel when you were within that group that these guys are going to go on and do some stuff that's pretty special?
Oh, absolutely. They're all brilliant men. It's really funny. My first wife met the 5 of us together. Maybe she came to one of the reunions early on or something. I can't remember. But I'll never forget. We were talking about it afterwards, and I said, "Well, what do you think about my friends? My Harvard roommates?" And she said, "You're each very different, but you're all alike in a certain way.
And what way was that?
I don't know. I never could figure her out. But anyway, it was.
Well, I think she probably meant you were all ambitious.
I think ambition and there's just a feeling, sure, with each of these guys, my brothers, that they were headed destiny. They had a rendezvous with destiny. That each of them was going to do something great to change the world. I certainly always felt that about them, or when I was in their presence.
Yeah, no, that's really impressive. And I was thinking, like, wouldn't it be interesting to sort of stack up roommates as groups and sort of look at what they did individually and collectively and sort of say, oh, how did that group do? How did these guys, how did this group make out? That might be an interesting exercise.
So we just hit it off, and we just really loved each other kind of almost from the start. And once we got to know each other.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. So I know that so at Harvard, you'd already had this incredible experience at the Supreme Court, which nobody else had, I assume. And so what did you study, and where did you think you were going as you sort of had to declare your major and all that stuff?
I mean, I know at the time I had no love of math or science, so I know I wasn't going to pursue that course. Yeah. And I just decided to take my dad's advice and try to get a good liberal arts education to be able to speak intelligently about, music or psychology or the arts. And I took a lot of, I guess I was mostly art and literature courses when I was there. And
so do you think that's still valuable? I mean, obviously that's under attack now. I'm on your side. I mean, I assume we're on the same side on this, that I think was the greatest thing about it, that you got to learn stuff about things. Do you, when you hear that under attack, or when you hear liberal arts as being conflated with liberalism somehow, right?
Oh, right.
How do you feel about that? Because you've been in a university environment yourself.
Yeah. Liberal, just as we're using the term here, means a belief in free markets. Free market of ideas, free market of beliefs.
Yeah.
It was great, and I see it when it's lacking, for example, in my students, or when I watch the news. I mean, how many people know what a tariff is?
Yeah.
Right.
Or thought they would ever need to know.
The United States didn't know. Right. I mean, and so what you have is just a discussion going on all around you in the newspapers and on the newscasts and in speeches given by the president, where nobody even knows what a tariff is or how it operates. And yet it was a fundamental part of the New World Order put in place by the United States and its allies after World War II to avoid another Great Depression, to have a free market, free trade in goods and services.
Yep.
And tariffs were seen as the great enemy of that.
And still are in that way.
Yeah, and they still are. So, I mean, that's just such a fundamental, to me, part of who we are. I found it when I came to Drake. Drake didn't have and Drake's a very well-regarded school, elite private university, basically regional, but with a lot of national students from all over. Did not have in place at the time formally in place an international law program. I mean, they taught some international courses from time to time, but not something that was a required part of the curriculum or an established part of the curriculum taught regularly every year. And that to me, was, well, I mean, that's why I was brought in. One reason why I was brought in. But for the United States to be the leader of the free world and for people to go through graduate school at elite private schools that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to attend and come out not even knowing what the UN Security Council does and how it operates or how the international monetary system works. I mean, that to me is not good.
Yeah, no, that's self-defeating.
So, we need liberal arts education, meaning just general education and knowledge about how the world works and what history,
Mhm.
what has happened historically, so we can put things in context.
Rod, I want to talk about your career, and I'm curious, um, sort of as you graduated 50 years ago, Rod. 50 years ago, you're
I
on
feel
kind of
that some mornings.
so you're on the precipice of something as a graduate of Harvard. You fulfilled your father's wishes, it sounds like. I'm sure they were very proud. But what were you on the precipice of then? And did you really see a path to the career that you ultimately had?
I'll make a general statement about that. That's a great question.
Mhm.
Uh, the most consequential things that have happened to me, the most important, the most consequential things that have happened to me, good and bad, I never saw coming.
Can you give an example?
Um, being a law professor in Des Moines, Iowa.
That was not on the playlist, huh?
That was not on the playlist. I
Huh?
grew up in Washington, D.C., New York City, and Boston. I
Mm-hmm.
was an East Coast Corridor kid.
Yeah.
I did my internship on Wall Street for a firm called Milbank, Tweed, Hadley, and McCoy.
Law firm. Yep.
McCoy, yeah, lawyers for the Rockefeller family
Yep.
and Chase
Famous
Manhattan
law
Bank.
firm. Yep.
Yeah, huge Wall Street law firm.
Did you go to
Uh,
Harvard Law?
yes, I went to Harvard Law School
Okay.
after
Right
seven.
after,
Yeah,
right after,
straight.
pretty much right after, right?
Came back home to Washington, D.C., worked in a Watergate law firm, Fried Frank, which was one of the top private firms. Um, then I worked for the city government. I was a lawyer for the city council, the D.C. City Council.
Uh-huh.
And I had never heard of Des Moines, Iowa. I mean, I had heard of it. I had heard of the Iowa Hawkeyes, kind of a big, dominant Big Ten
Is
football.
it the Drake Bulldogs? Do I have that right?
Drake
Are they?
Bulldogs, you got it right.
That's
Drake Bulldogs.
very good.
And
Score one
but
for
anyway,
me.
so years later, kind of fast forward years later, and I meet my wife Lisa here in Washington, uh, 38 years ago, 38, 39. We've been married 38, 39 years,
That's
1988.
great.
Uh,
Congratulations.
Thank you. Um, and we have a daughter who just finished college and is in business school now.
Oh, that's
But at
great.
any rate, she was an Air Force brat. Her father was a pilot in the United States Air Force, a combat pilot for many years.
Hmm.
And she lived everywhere. She had lived everywhere. She had lived in the Midwest, Elgin Air Force Base near Green Bay, Wisconsin. She remembers going to Green Bay Packer football games with her. She had lived in the Northwest United States, Missouri, Texas, a lot of places. And she said to me one day, you know, we've been here 5 years. Well, we've been married 5 years and living in Washington. And I really think that we should move to the Midwest. It's a better life.
Hmm.
And what did I know? I didn't know anything about the Midwest. I'd flown over it, traveled through it,
Right.
seen the Iowa Hawkeyes play
Yeah.
football on TV,
Yeah.
and it was just it was the best move I ever made. I mean, it's wonderful here. It's still, despite the fact that it's so red, it's beautiful and spacious and friendly and open and affordable and a much better life.
And so the vehicle was the becoming a professor of law at Drake University School of Law, correct? Is that, and
Right.
how did you make that? That's a pretty big jump from, working for the D.C. government to becoming a law professor. How did you manage that?
That's another one I never saw coming. Uh, Antioch College in Yellow Springs, Ohio,
Where I've been there, I know it. Yep.
went bankrupt, and my dad had a gallbladder surgery, and he spent a week in Washington Hospital Center sharing a room with a guy who was an Antioch College student. And my father was so impressed with this young man that he was absolutely convinced that I should go to Antioch College, that would just be the greatest thing that could happen. Anyway,
He would
fast
have
forward.
thought differently if he'd actually seen what it looked like, believe me, which I have. So that's pretty random. But what does Antioch have to do with Drake?
So Antioch had a law school, but the law school was not in Yellow Springs, Ohio. It was in Washington, D.C.
Oh, okay.
And so when Antioch College went bankrupt, the law school was going to go out of business. And a DC council member came to me and said, we can't let a great law school like Antioch Law School Antioch provides a lot of services, legal services to the poor and the underprivileged. And they've been doing that here in our community, and we can't let them go bankrupt or defunct. Write some legislation that will make Antioch Law School part of the University of the District of Columbia. So I worked on the legislation that made Antioch Law School what it is today. The David A. Clark, no relation, School of Law at the University of the District of Columbia. And it's an accredited law school that's still there. So in the process of working on this legislation, I meet the Antioch law faculty, and we become friends. I liked them a lot. They're really amazing people. And one night I'm out with a professor. I don't know whether he's still there. A professor named Tom Mack, who, just as an aside, is from Iowa, as it turns out. But anyway, I was out with Tom Mack, and we were having a couple of beers, and he said, "What are you doing these days, Rod?" And I said, "Well, I wrote my biography of Thurgood Marshall, and that did well, and I got a second contract for another book now about his ally on the court, Justice Brennan. And so I write, and I go around lecturing and trying to promote my books." And he said, "Well, so you work at home?" I said, Yeah. I work at home, and then I go out and lecture around the country. And he said, "That's what law professors do." And I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah, we write and we lecture. You should become a law professor and let somebody else pay your electric bills."
This is great advice.
And so I put that together with what my wife had said about wanting to move to the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
And I applied to law schools in the Midwest.
Oh, okay.
And
as a professor,
it's a long story about how they do it. It's kind of like speed dating. Law schools that are looking to hire write to the American Association of Law Schools. People who are looking for professorships send their resumes to the American Association of Law Schools, AALS. They do kind of a dating thing, and if it looks like it might be a fit, you're invited to meet with representatives of the law schools who think they might like you in what used to be the Woodley Park Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
I heard it's gone now. Wardman Park, Woodman Wardley Park. Anyway, I don't know. But anyway, it's one of the huge hotels, and you kind of meet each law school that's asked for a date, and you meet with their representatives, their recruitment committee, members of their recruitment committee who've flown in for about 30 minutes. And so you go from Marquette to Drake to Thurgood Marshall School of Law in Houston, Texas,
Uh-huh.
to and if you make a match, you're invited to come to campus for a visit. And Drake invited me. Drake was one of the schools that invited me. I really liked the guys I met there at the hotel, and flew out to Des Moines, Iowa, and really loved the place. It just seemed like a place with so much potential. And the school itself, and then the surrounding area, Des Moines, is actually, at the time, Drake really considered Des Moines sort of a hindrance to their recruiting faculty, because there wasn't a lot to do, there wasn't a lot going on. Who's heard of Des Moines, Iowa? They assumed that it was part of the agricultural economy, which it is not. Actually, the economy of Des Moines is based on financial services. And now Des Moines, of course, this is 34 years later, Des Moines is considered one of the most desirable places for young professionals. So it's really become one of the drawing cards for Drake.
You're ahead of your time?
Yeah, I was ahead of my time, and made some good real estate investments.
Oh, good for you.
When it was affordable, and I could see the boom coming. And then our daughter came into the picture, and the world here really opened up. I got a phone call one evening from a lady I didn't know. She said, "Hi, I'm Elizabeth so-and-so, and my daughter, Margaret, is in one of young Eleanor's classes." My daughter is Eleanor Ellie. "And I'll make the lunch if you'll agree to drive them to the place and pick them up." And I don't understand. Oh, you want to talk to my wife? My wife got it. Ellie was being invited out on a play date.
Yeah, as we learned to call it, right?
As we've learned to call it. And once you have a play date, then the world here just broke open to me. It really is all about family and raising kids and teams and athletic competition and baseball diamonds and playing fields that go on forever and swimming
fields of dreams. Yes.
Yeah, it is the field of dreams.
And so, I was interested. I know several of my classmates. I'm thinking of Diana Gilligan, who was a doctor and a professor in New York, upstate New York, and others. I met some others. I can't remember the exact names, but there are a number of our classmates who retired on the cusp of the 50th reunion. And so you're among them, right? You were retired. Were those events related at all in your mind, directly or indirectly?
No.
You were planning. You had planned this. So my other
I
question.
was getting ready. I was
And
ready.
I'm asking you this sort of writer to writer. I assume
Sure.
you're going to want to do a lot of writing. That's the great thing as you get older as a writer, there's nothing to stop you but yourself.
Right.
You can just keep going. So, what are your ambitions as a writer in this next chapter of your life?
I would like to write short novels.
Oh, really? My specialty, Rod. I've written about 5 of them, so I can tell you. You know what? It's a lot easier than long novels. I'm actually finishing. I'm actually tomorrow. I'm going to completely finish a novel. It's probably going to be my last one, and I think it's maybe 11 or 12. But short novels are a lot of fun because, for all the obvious reasons, they're not short stories, so you really have as much room as you want. But,
right.
But a novel is a marathon. So why short novels? That's interesting. And what kind of stuff do you want to write about, or are you writing about?
I would like to write a short, gritty novel about my hometown during its transition, Washington, D.C.'s transition, from being what it was when I grew up through the Marion Barry days to what it has become now.
Mayor Marion Barry, famous for drug bust, right? Didn't he get busted?
Yeah, he was famous. That's what he's famous for, the drug bust,
Mm-hmm.
um, which he was led into by one of his lovers. So it's a kind of Samson and Delilah reprise. But also, he did an incredible thing. Washington was one of the most segregated, racially segregated cities in America. Not the part of it that I grew up in or knew, but Washington was very segregated, and Marion Barry rebuilt the place by bringing together two constituencies, wealthy whites and poor blacks, and together with real estate developers. And that was the three-way marriage made in heaven.
Wow, that's great. And have you started that one?
And it was I've started it, and that was a very interesting mix of seeing. Really, he had a remarkable ability. I don't know if you've ever read the novels of Ward Just.
I do very well. He was a journalist in Washington, terrific writer, and wrote about novels about Washington, primarily in politics, right?
Yeah, Honor, Power, Riches, Fame, and the Love of Women. That was one of them.
That's a title. Do you have a title?
Chocolate City.
Oh, I like it.
There's another one. There's a poem on the plaza on Pennsylvania Avenue, just before you get to the Treasury Department. There's a big plaza there, and it's a poem by Alfred Krall, Crall. Never heard of him for anything else, but it's engraved there. How can you act the natural man in this invented city, neither home nor Rome?
That's quite well put and quite poetic.
So I was thinking the invented city might be, because it was literally invented. They just said, where are we going to put the capital? Yeah. And they just decided. It wasn't put there because it was some great commercial center or on some rushing river or anything like that.
Yeah, as it would be today, probably. Well, listen, we as a class need more novelists. We as a novelist myself, I know of the late Bobby Gordon. I don't know if you knew Bobby.
I knew Bobby.
He was a very good writer, very, very good.
Tom Wright's roommate, wasn't he?
I'm sorry?
I think he was Tom Wright's roommate.
I think he was, at least for one or not more of the years. And then Kurt Anderson, who also was did Spy Magazine.
Kurt Anderson, yeah.
Yeah, which is amazing. And I'm actually interviewing him in about a week, I believe. A lot of journalists, but I'm curious in general of as to why the class didn't have more artists in general. Like, we've got lots of lawyers, lots of doctors, lots of Wall Street people, lots of journalists, but and we've got we have photographers, we have painters, we have distinguished, we have poet, we have several poets, but it's not a long list, right? It's not like, right. And it's self-serving for me because I can say, well, I'm only one of the only novelists in the class, and now I'm joined by Rod Clark. So,
well, let's hope. I'm open.
Well, listen, if it's a short novel, you know what that really means? That means you're going to finish it.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, right. That means
yeah. Oh, I want to add, John Paul Newport is also writing a novel.
Oh,
a very talented journalist who wrote about golf for the Wall Street Journal for a long time.
I bumped into someone I knew or used to. I hadn't seen her in 50 years. Claudia Long.
I didn't know her.
She has written novels.
Oh, okay, good. Well, we'll get her on the list. We'll get her in here. Listen, Rod, this has been fantastic, incredibly interesting on many different levels.
Good.
I'm really glad you were able to do this, and I know there'll be tremendous interest in our class. And I guess I'm getting the impression people are actually watching and listening to these. So
you're getting feedback. You're getting.
Yeah, enormous amount of feedback. Yes.
Oh, good.
Yeah, people
I'm
are
glad
really.
you undertook the project. Or did you kind of do it with the class in mind, or did you have a broader audience, or what?
No, I just did it with the class in mind. I think it's finding a bit of a broader audience because it's going out to my community on Substack. So people, I'm having, people come up to me and say, "Oh, I had open heart surgery just like Giles Whalen," um,
Yeah.
stuff like that. But um, but um, but it's really been great, and I think it sort of hopefully we kind of keep our coherence. This is a way to help keep our coherence as a class, and for me it's great because I get to talk to people like you and Robert and many others that you and I have never spoken before as far as I know, and so that's fantastic. So
Better
it's
late than never.
better late than never. We got a long way to go, right?
Yep. I'm
Well,
not going
thank
anywhere, I hope. Not anytime soon.
now I have a problem. Before the reunion, I could just always say, "See you at the reunion." So, so I think what I'm going to say now is, "See you at the reunion."
Sounds
You know,
good. All right.
hopefully we'll get to the next one, right?
Enjoy the next 25 years.
Yeah.
75 is the big one, right?
See
That's
you
the
in
next
25. Thanks, Rod.
one. Take care.